in the shot.
Hey there, I'm Jane Velez Mitchell, and welcome to our newscast, facebook.com/JaneVelezMitchell. I am joined by Donny Moss of TheirTurn.net with Max, and our special guests, Jasmine Singer and Marianne Sullivan and Rose. Yes. And you ask, why are we all here with our animals? Because we're talking about animals, and we're talking about how much we love our pets, but the truth is the vast majority of animals are not coddled pets. They are farm animals suffering institutionalized cruelty. They're laboratory animals suffering institutionalized cruelty. They're the animals behind closed doors that nobody sees except those who are exploiting them. And so I want to start by asking Jasmine Singer of OurHenHouse.com. This team, Jasmine Singer and Marianne Sullivan, have created this amazing multimedia platform called OurHenHouse.com, and it's a podcast, it's going to be a TV show, it is a TV show, it's many things. Jasmine, what is your goal? What is your strategy?
Thanks, Jane. We're ourhenhouse.org, by the way, not ourhenhouse.com, because we are a nonprofit, and we are a multimedia hub for changing the world for animals. So we have had a podcast for the last 5 years, and we have a TV show that's a co-production with Brooklyn Independent Media, and we're basically a place for anybody who cares about animals, be it their dog or a cat or a farmed animal, to come to really express a way to create change for them in whatever means that means in their life. So Marianne here is a lawyer who speaks up for animals through teaching animal law, and I'm a writer with a background in the arts, so we have a strong bent on bringing the arts out as a way to change the world for animals. We have a lot of fun too.
Well, Marianne, you are an attorney, and you are a living example of how you can use your profession to make things a better place for animals. To make the world a better place for animals, to open people's minds about what's going on with animals. How do you use your law degree to help animals?
Well, you know, there are a lot of ways that people can use law degrees to help animals, but not all of them pay. And I started getting interested in this issue 20 years ago when there really wasn't even such a thing called animal law. And, you know, I mean, I don't want to think of myself as a living example, but it really is true that no matter what you do...
That's a dead example.
For the moment. Everybody can find a way to use whatever they're doing as a way to help animals. I had a job, a regular job. It didn't have anything to do with animals, but I found a bar association and had an animal law committee. I got together with other people who cared about this issue but didn't really know quite what to do. And they started working on legislation. I learned more about the issues. I learned what was happening with farmed animals. Like most people, I started out because I cared about my dog. Not this dog, another dog.
I care about this dog too.
I care about this dog so much. But no matter, and then I found out the truth of what was going on with farmed animals because of being around other people who cared about animals. And then I became more aware of things. I started doing some research. I wrote a few articles in legal journals because I cared so much about the issue, and nobody else really was doing it because the animals don't have a lot of money to pay for lawyers. And then eventually I learned enough so I was trusted to teach students at several law schools about this issue, and that has just been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, both to learn myself about not really how the laws protect animals, but how the laws fail to protect animals. That's the main subject area of when you study animal law, how the law is just failing to do what people think it should be doing, and maybe come up with some ways to change that.
And Donny Moss, you are a dear friend of all of ours, and you are also a living example, take it, the alternative is worse, of just using your voice as an individual. You did a documentary called Blinders. You decided your focus was to let the world know about the horrors of horses in Midtown city traffic, and you, single-handedly, although people told you, oh, come on, do something that's more achievable, you single-handedly made this a major issue in the recent mayoral campaign, and some say you were very instrumental in the election of Mayor Bill de Blasio, who promised to end carriage horses, and we'll see how he does. We're watching it.
Thanks, Jane. I mean, a lot of people have been involved in the fight to both take the horses off the streets and out of harm's way, and also to elect a mayor who is animal friendly. The journey for me started with the horses, but I quickly realized that the compassion that I felt for those horses, I should really be feeling for all the animals, including the ones on my plate. And it's movies like The Cove and Blackfish which are opening people's eyes, non-animal people, their eyes to the plight of all animals in society. My website is called theirturn.net, and I use the word their turn because I really believe that animal rights is the social justice movement of our time. With other marginalized groups having achieved so many successes, there's an opening now for the animals, and we all need to jump on board as quickly as possible.
And let me say this for myself. I'm a journalist. I got a degree in journalism from New York University. And as an animal lover, I decided to use my journalism as a conduit for getting the information out about what's going on with animals. And I've been able to do that for 3 decades. And there is no profession that I could think of, no job where you cannot somehow make it work to spread the word about animals. If you have a potluck dinner, you can bring a compassionate dinner to the office. You can leave literature around. You can take your friends to events that are about animals. You can tell people to watch Meet Your Meat or Farm to Fridge. So one of the things that I think all of us have in common is that, frankly, I was blessed because I was one of the rare exceptions to be able to do animal rights stories to the web and doing an all-platform. Am I boring you, Foxy? Doing an all-platform effort with Donny, and also I'm sure Jasmine, Marianne, and I and Donny were all working together. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. We're going around the mainstream media and going directly to the people. And how important is that? And how does something like Our Hen House achieve that, Jasmine?
Well, thanks, Jane. The whole idea of bringing the power to the individual when it comes to creating media is, I think, as you would agree, going to pave the way for a more compassionate future. We can't rely solely on mainstream media. We've been doing Our Hen House, which you can find at ourhenhouse.org, for 5 years now, and we are 251 podcast episodes deep now. We've literally interviewed hundreds and hundreds of change makers, everyone from celebrities like Emily Deschanel and Mayim Bialik to athletes like Scott Jurek, to just everyday people like jewelry designer in Montana who's bringing the animal rights message into her work. Her name is Bonnie Goodman, to writers, to filmmakers. And I really, really think that media is the way in for change making. And thanks to the internet and thanks to people spreading the word and the platform and the unity created by creating change for animals, the fact that mostly everyone can agree that the world needs to be a better place for animals. That's why Our Hen House speaks to people. That's why our TV show was launched earlier this year. That's why we have an online magazine and an ebook publishing arm and a popular podcast, because people want to create change for animals. So,
and there's Rose. There's Rose right into the camera saying, what about me? What about me?
Rose is the creation.
Question. How is the law changing? Because I will say that I've seen, when I first started, people regarded me as a freak because I cared about animals and I wanted to do animal stories. And because I was a vegan, first I was a vegetarian, sort of a half-assed vegetarian who occasionally ate shellfish, and then after meeting Howard Lyman, the author of Mad Cowboy, I went vegan like that. But now the media has changed, and they're starting to take these stories very seriously. Are they covering them as much as they should? No. But they're not snickering the way they used to. How has the law changed regarding animal rights?
You know, very, very little, if at all. Well, there have been small changes. When I first started, the law completely ignored farmed animals. In some states, there have been some very minor reforms, often due to ballot initiatives, not to legislators getting on board. The fact is, people cannot rely on the law to take care of animals. They're at the mercy of these industries, and the legislatures are just sacrificing themselves to these industries. They don't listen to the people at all. People, that is exactly what people do. They abandon their they abandon their consciences because they think that the law is taking care of animals, and they're not. The law is a very conservative institution. It's very, in this country, it's extremely influenced by industry. People have to step up to the plate, literally step up to the plate, and do it themselves. They have to take care of animals in their own lives. And only then, when that really starts to catch on, and when they spread the word in their places of business, or where they work, or whatever it is, or in their schools, a great place to be spreading the word about animals, then when it starts to become a public issue, the law is going to start to pay attention. But the law will never lead here. Look at the kind of reforms we're fighting to get through the law, and fighting so hard to accomplish. Getting rid of gestation crates for pigs. These things are completely barbaric. I mean, and this is a hard fight to get the law to protect pigs, extraordinarily intelligent animals, just to the extent that they can take one step forward or one step back or turn around in their living spaces where they live for years. That's considered a huge legal reform. We need much better than the law can do.
You should mention that, because when I saw that first time I saw pig gestation crates, I couldn't sleep. I routinely wake up in the middle of the night thinking about these pigs who cannot turn around ever their entire lives. So the second that I concluded a very fun and wonderful run at a great place where I had a show on national TV for 6 years, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and I left on wonderful terms, and I love the people who work there. Literally, the second I left there, I went back to my computer, and I got on my Facebook, and I started sending the message out. And I said to myself, Donny Moss, Jasmine Singer, Marianne Sullivan, all these other people, we're going to get together, and we are going to, I had a weekly animal segment that was 5 minutes. If I put out information 7 days a week, I can reach the same number of people I reached in those 5 minutes once a week. And Donny, in the past week, you and I have worked together very successfully. I've been blown away by the response we've gotten over interviews we did with Esther the Wonder Pig, which is a pig who was adopted by 2 guys in Canada, and she's become a cult figure, and we had her on, and the response is enormous. Donny, we got at least 100,000 people reached with the story in terms of the views, the follow-ups, the posts, the tweets, the Facebook, the Google Hangout, the YouTube, and working together. To me, that was astounding, because that said, yes, my goal was not silly or rhetoric. We are reaching people, and especially the millennials, are going to this medium, the outlets I just mentioned, the platforms I just mentioned for information, and I believe that Governor Christie's office is aware of what we're doing, primarily because I sent them a link to the video today, and I know that a woman called me and said she called one of the aides to Governor Christie and told him that she's not going to sleep until she gets him to sign that ban on gestation crates. Donny.
Jane, you know, heroes like Steve and Derek, who are the dads of Esther the Wonder Pig, generate so much attention for cruelty-free lifestyle. They've made such a difference. But on their turn, I also profiled an activist here in New York City named Jim Scotto, and he takes it upon himself to stand in subway stations and distribute vegetarian starter guides to people. And he's been doing it for years, and he has had so many people come up to him and say, because of this brochure, I've gone vegan. And I wanted to relay that story because it does serve as an example of the fact that everybody can do something to help others adopt a cruelty-free lifestyle.
Foxy wants to say something. Foxy, you're apparently very upset, and I agree with you. You would never want to be in one. And I agree with you, Donny. My girlfriend and I, Donna and I, have set up a stand, and we put out PETA vegan starter kits every day, and they're snapped up like that. So I know we're having a difference. The question, and I want to go back to Jasmine, a sea change. When Blackfish was aired, I saw a turning point. It was really, and I interviewed the director, and she's an extraordinary woman, I really saw, she's a mother who said she used to take her kids to SeaWorld and then decided after the death of one of the trainers to start peeling back the layers, and she discovered this story that became this award-winning, very much seen documentary. And do you see that we're getting to a point where we're hitting critical mass?
I think that the way we will hit critical mass is for society to reach a tipping point. I don't think we need to reach every single person. I want to, but I think what we need to reach is 10% of people, and we're absolutely getting there. I agree that Blackfish was extremely monumental in that. In fact, we had a 13-year-old girl, Rose McCoy, on our TV show earlier this year who made national headlines because she used Blackfish to do protests at the Rose Bowl and various parades throughout the country, that including in New York and Los Angeles, that had these huge floats, and people need to learn the truth. People are learning the truth thanks to Donny, thanks to Blinders, thanks to you, Jane. What you have done for animals is absolutely tremendous. And
we're all together. We're all in it together.
I think, isn't there some statistic that says that in the UK there's a tremendous growth of vegetarianism?
Yeah, 12% people in the UK are vegetarians. So it's really growing. I think the real key with movies like Blackfish is that they key into an issue that allow people to open their hearts, because nobody has to go to SeaWorld. That's not a big part of anybody's life. And they open their hearts to these animals, and they see what's happening to them, and they're horrified. And it truly is horrifying. And that, you know, once you open your heart, you can't close it down again, and then you see Esther the Wonder Pig, and you think, well, pigs aren't any different. Mm-hmm. They deserve to be treated fairly, too, and that's why she's such a wonderful ambassador. We're in love with Esther. And once you start, you can't stop. You have to see these animals, and once you see them, you have to change society, because you see behind those closed doors and what these people are doing to these animals for money. It's beyond comprehension. It's just beyond comprehension. Once people realize it and open their hearts to it, they can't not change. We're right at the beginning of that process. But I actually think because of media and because of the way, as you said, media is spreading online in ways that can't be controlled by the industry, that can't be controlled by anybody, people are going to find out the truth. And once people find out the truth, you know, the vast majority of people actually agree with everything we have to say. They just don't know.
Yeah. And I just want to say this as we close. You know, people have said, well, the movement started out with outlandish street theater, and they like to dismiss it as, do you think people really want to get up and dressed in outlandish costumes or go naked or put themselves in meat trays? Do you think they really want to do that? No. It's a desperation tactic that is practiced by people who can't sleep at night, and they tried the traditional routes. They've tried holding news conferences and issuing press releases and calling journalists and telling them something terrible is happening. Something's terrible. Pigs are being kept in crates the size of their bodies, never able to turn around. They have a higher IQ than dogs. And nobody does the story. So they can't sleep that night. Then they wake up the next day and they say, I've got to do something. I've got to do something that'll get attention. I don't care. I have no ego. I'll embarrass myself if need be to get the word out. Indeed, I'm sure somebody probably look at this and say, what silly thing is Jane doing now with her dog on an internet chat when she used to have a national mainstream medium? I don't care. I will do whatever I can at all times to get the word out, because I know that when people see those gestation crates, they will snap out of their denial. We will look back and we will be horrified at what we have done in this century to animals, the industrialization of cruelty, the institutionalization of cruelty. I want to, am I boring you? I love how Foxy yawns into the camera. I want to give Donny Moss and then Jasmine and Marianne final word.
Well, I don't want to go to the Halloween parade tonight at all. I want to walk in the other direction, but instead I'm going to be dressed as a shower that says, can you see this? 1 pound of meat equals 180 showers, save the planet, go vegan. So yes, we put ourselves in compromising positions, because if that's what we need to do to raise awareness of the plight of animals, we do it.
Bravo to you. And you know what? I want you to get some photos of yourself so I can post them on my website.
Absolutely not. No, I will. I will.
We are going to do it. We're going to get some shots of you. Final words, Marianne and Jasmine.
I just want to say something to what you just said, Jane, which is that not everybody needs to go naked to change the world for animals. Not everybody even needs to make a documentary about the horse-drawn carriage industry. People need to just get involved in their community in the way that makes sense to them. So lawyers can offer pro bono services. Artists can start painting pictures and other types of art that speak up for animal rights. Media makers like you, Jane, can start implementing animal stories on their shows. Writers could bring it into their words. Teachers can bring it to the classroom through humane education. Parents could start talking to their kids about the reality, the truth about what's going on behind closed doors in a way that they can swallow. There's so many different ways to get involved. We don't need to label ourselves anything that we don't want to label ourselves in order to do so.
Just everyone needs to go a little bit outside of their comfort zone, but not that far out of their comfort zone. There's so many things to do, as Jasmine said, but that's the only thing that's going to work. We cannot say that government is going to change this. Government is never going to change it. They're not going to fix this. We can't even say that the animal rights organizations, we can't send a check off. We should send a check off. They're doing great work, but they can't do it with, this is a huge sea change we have to make in society. Perhaps one of the biggest changes that has ever been made. And there's so many good reasons to do it. I mean, aside from the animals, just saving ourselves and feeding the world and saving the planet. There's so many good reasons to do it, but it's a huge change. Everyone has to do their part.
And I want to end with that. You brought up an important point. People sometimes say, well, what did you care about people? Well, I do care about people. If we all went vegan in this country, we could take all the soybean and all the grain that we feed 9 billion animals to raise and institutionalize cruelty and slaughter every year, and we could distribute that equitably around the world and end world hunger right now.
Absolutely.
There are children dying of malnutrition because we are hogging, pun intended, all the resources for ourselves. And Donnie's going to demonstrate about the incredible use of water for meat production. Meat production is one of the biggest sources of climate change, far beyond the things that people talk about all the time. So I ask everybody who's just perhaps checking this out of idle curiosity to just get involved, to start researching it, to Google pig gestation crates and have the courage to look at the photos, because once you see it, no amount of words. Thank you so very much, Jasmine and Marianne from ourhenhouse.org and Donny Moss from theirturn.net. And I am here, facebook.com/janevelezmitchell with Foxy. Until next time, I'm signing out.